Hi guys, it's Ben from T-Rex Space Station. How's everyone doing? This is Castlevania IV on the Super Famicom. One of the awesome things about collecting old games, well, I think that a lot of people probably started out like I did, and you start by buying games that you used to like back in the day. A lot of my purchases were based purely on the nostalgia factor. But one of the other really cool elements that I've been enjoying is actually buying as an adult the systems that I missed out on when I was a kid. And the Super Nintendo, or the Super Famicom, was definitely one of those. And I think as a result of not having that system as a kid, I really didn't get into the Castlevania games. They were kind of games that passed me by. Even though I know that there were releases on PlayStation and other systems that I had, I think that the Castlevania games probably were the most dear to people who started out with either an NES or a Super Nintendo. But as I said, one of the really fun things about collecting retro is discovering huge, amazing, influential franchises that you missed out on. And Castlevania is a great example of that because it's not a series of games that I ever really bothered with when I was younger. And now, as an adult, I'm getting to actually see what all the fuss was about. I know that quite a few of the original Castlevania games were ported onto the Wii's Virtual Console, and I really enjoyed. There is a like a retro remaking series of games on the Wii. Oh, I should have jumped over that. Basically, where certain classic games got either a new game or a sort of reimagining, and there is a new Castlevania game on the Wii which is really good. There was also, as part of that series, a Gradius game and a Contra game as well, and I really liked the Castlevania game, and actually I managed to beat it on one of the easier settings, and then it was fun to go play the original Castlevania game on the NES using the Virtual Console, and it's a very good port. And one of the things that sets the Wii apart as an emulation machine is the fact that the Virtual Console does let you play your games in their original aspect ratios and original resolutions. There are 240p modes, which means that you can get a really good, crisp and quite faithful, pure picture, a reasonable representation of how things might have been back in the day. And yeah, as a result, I got really curious, and I know a few people have commented on some of my old videos, and people recommend things, which is the fun thing about being a YouTuber. And my friend Swifto said, you know what, Castlevania IV is my favourite one. And it was one that I could find on eBay that it wasn't really cheap, but it wasn't crazy. I think that the difficult thing about collecting games from popular franchises is that because of that popularity, the prices can be really high. If you have a look at some of the Castlevania games, particularly the ones on the PlayStation 1 or the 32-bit era, PlayStation 1 or the Sega Saturn, they're very expensive. Now, one thing that strikes me, having played some of the other Castlevania games recently, is that they all seem quite faithful to each other. I don't know if there are outliers, but a lot of the core mechanics are preserved throughout each of the games, in terms of the collecting hearts and the candelabras, I don't know how you say that. Here's these weird sort of slug things that fall down from the ceiling. This game has quite a nice attack in it, because you can actually sort of swoop the chain around in multiple different directions. It's quite a versatile little thing. And graphically, this is a really nice game. I mean, obviously it goes without saying, but it's a huge step up from the NES game. I think that as somebody who's only come to the franchise quite late on, there are certain things that really stand out about these games. In particular, the fact that they are really challenging. Oh, I should have been better at that. you know, you do need to kind of have your wits about you and really sort of, if you're not quick on the uptake with blasting the enemies, you will die. Oh, I've just activated the power-up that I collected, which is Bernard's watch. I think I've mentioned that TV show before. It's a kid's TV show about a kid who can freeze time, and I've died. Oh, that wasn't actually that bad. I died and restarted somewhere very near, so that was actually not a bad place to die, particularly for you viewers who don't want to see me doing the same bits of gameplay over and over again. Other good things I have to say about this game, well, it has a relatively good continue system. A lot of 16-bit games went for those password systems with varying success. I always remember ones like the Road Rash one. Password system in Road Rash is crazy. You know, where you've got to basically list out an essay of random characters. It takes forever. This one actually has a relatively simplistic system of hearts and skulls, and it ain't that bad. Of course, it's a lot easier these days because what I tend to do is take a photograph with my mobile phone. I couldn't do that back in the day. Whoops. Yeah, this guy, what do? I tend to just spam him with daggers and hope that he goes away. Oh yeah, then the skeleton comes off the horse. It's a really crazy effect when you hit the skeleton. I'm on 1 health. That was really a close thing. I hope that I get a refreshed health for the next level. I presume I probably do. Yeah, the bosses are quite nice in this game. Look at this bit here as well. It's like almost... Well, it's not 3D. It's kind of isometric, isn't it? But sprite scaling. But look at the really nice, colourful environments you get on it. Yeah, these are weird monsters. They're like hedge monsters. A monster made out of leaves? Damn you, environment. Oh, they take 2 hits as well. I'm never quite sure what the bags of cash are for. I mean, if they had like an RPG style element where you could buy stuff, that would make sense, but I don't think that there is that. It's just purely for showing off. Oh yeah, I mean, it's a game full of ghosts and zombies and stuff, but it also has killer armadillos. How many games have killer armadillos in them? Not very many, I would think. Right, lots of candelabras. Castlevania is a funny game, really, because of the the whole concept of the wall meat. It's like randomly in the levels, there are bits of chicken stuffed within the bricks. It's like, who the hell put that there, and who would even eat that? And why is that considered to be good for your health? A really sweaty chicken breast stuffed within the wall that's been there for God knows how long. It's kind of just an amusing concept. Getting steamrollered by armadillos. Who remembers the Dime Bar adverts? What was it? Crunchy on the outside, smooth on the inside. Armadillos. That takes me back to the glory days of classic 90s adverts. Ooh, I can still remember some of the adverts word for word from like back in the 90s when I was at school. Say if I was taping a film, obviously you'd tape the adverts as well. Some of the adverts would get watched as much as the films. Like if I'd tape a Disney film off telly, like Robin Hood. I also remember a lot of the really naff like children's toys adverts from some of the companies like Zapf and stuff. Get out of here. I remember that the songs like My Baby All Gone. I don't know why, but it's just... I suppose as a kid you watch things over and over again, and as a result, if there are adverts recorded on your videos, you're gonna be hearing those adverts a lot. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm taking a lot of hits. I could really do with some wall meat. Gonna have to be quite careful. Suffice to say, I'm probably gonna die. I do find Castlevania games very difficult to play and talk because you really do have to have your wits about you and not take too many hits. you start off thinking you've got quite a lot of health, and a couple of like rash choices later and you can be down to half and then a quarter really quickly. As I said, they're not games that like to mess around, but they are games that I think are quite fair. In my experience, once you've practiced the level a few times and kind of know what you're doing, you're okay. We got a boss. Oh yeah, this guy is tough because he basically spams you with snakes. Snakes on a plane. And yeah, it's like some kind of Medusa boss. This is the slightly sucky thing, is that when you die on that boss, you go right back to the start of the level. And then when you do the level the second time, you decide, you know what, I'm going to be really careful. And I'm not going to lose all those lives. But then again, I can be quite rash when I play video games. I don't tend to be a very cautious game player. I can particularly get quite impatient with games. And so as a kid, it's probably good that I didn't play Castlevania games, because I would have just got absolutely owned. I sort of tend to be too rushing ahead, Sonic the Hedgehog-y kind of impatient, or certainly I was that way in the past. It's just a different way of playing with these games. They have a sort of slow, considered pace to them. Not games to be rushing. Not really. But that's nice in a way, you know, it's just a different style of game compared to what I have been used to as a kid. I know that the Mega Drive Castlevania game is really collectible and expensive as well. There we go, got a chicken drumstick. And I managed to avoid the attack of the killer pigeons. Oh. So I think the only times when I manage to beat this boss easily are when I've got like pretty much full health, because... Right, what I'm going to do is just spam him with as many daggers as I can. But I keep thinking there must be a sweet spot somewhere where if you stand you don't get hit. You know, there must be a sweet spot. But I'm damned if I know where it is. But look at the graphics, it's really nice. Lovely effects, and the water looks really good, very smooth. And these are kind of like weird mermaid enemies, I don't know what those are. I couldn't even tell if I killed that then. It's really difficult. The water's pulling me one way and the enemies are the other. The games are kind of full of little devious things though, like that. Like, you know, a trap that you've got to jump out of the way of at the last minute. They do like to put those things in there to keep your wits about you, but I don't know, I don't find them too unfair. I enjoy them. I think the thing with them is, that strikes me as, well, a very similar thing to a lot of retro games, is particularly with the bosses, it's just about practice. The only slight area where it could be frustrating is if you die at certain points in the levels, the restart point can be quite far back, and that's a little bit annoying sometimes. But I think that we've got a bit used to games these days having like auto saves right before you go to the next point. Anyway, that was stage 2, and I think I'll leave it there. I kind of feel like playing a bit more of this now. This is Castlevania IV. It's a really good game. It's, you know, it's not crazy expensive, but it is getting more collectible these days, so maybe one worth having a look at. Take care, guys, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.